right, thank you for the song. Oswald, would you want to come up and do the prayer? Are you good to do it right there? Right there? All right. All right, so it looks like the food is done. If you guys would like to start with the elders first, and if anyone would like to help out any elders to bring them food, that would be appreciated. Food's just over there. I don't mean to interrupt you guys while you're eating your food, but Chief Bone is going to come up and say a few opening remarks for us to get started.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. And I just want to acknowledge you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and be a part of this evening. Finances are not just about numbers on paper. They represent our programs, our services, and the well-being of our people. They reflect how we support our families, our children, and our future as a nation. Tonight is about transparency, clarity, and accountability. Our auditor is here to present the audited financial statements. To walk through the information and to ensure that everyone has access to accurate and verified facts. This is your nation, and you have every right to understand how finances are being managed. Financial reporting is not something that can be altered or hidden. It follows strict standards and is subject to independent auditing processes. There are checks and balances in place to ensure accuracy and accountability. So this evening, we encourage everyone to focus on the verified information being presented here and to take this opportunity to ask questions and gain a clear understanding. The audit itself was conducted by an independent qualified auditing firm. Their role is to review financial records, ensure compliance, and to provide an objective opinion. They do not work for Chief and Council, but they work to ensure accountability to the nation as a whole. This process is in place to protect the integrity of our finances and to ensure that everything is being handled properly and transparently. As part of strengthening our financial governance moving forward, leadership will also be implementing a finance and audit committee as required under our financial administration law. This committee will provide additional oversight, support accountability, and help ensure that our financial practices continue to meet both our legal obligations and the expectations of our community. This is an important step in building long-term trust and strengthening how we manage our nation's resources. We are here tonight to be open, to be accountable, and to move forward together with a shared understanding. And I just want to thank you again for being here, and I'll pass it off to Mark Debuscher, who's our auditor. He's going to present our 24-25 audit. So this audit was signed off by the former Chief and Council. I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Chief. So we'll look at the March 31, 2025 financial statements. Some of you may have heard this before. We've added a little bit more substance, so bear with us if you've heard some of this, but please ask questions if there's something that we need to clarify. As Chief mentioned, my name is Mark Debuscher from McClellan Debuscher CPA out of Saskatoon. We've worked with the nation off and on since about 2018 through different councils and chiefs. As Chief mentioned, this one was signed off by the previous Chief and Council. It covers one of their portion of their term. It was signed off on August 25th of 2025. Okay, and that is done by the all of council. It has to be voted on by a quorum. So everything you're seeing here has been through that approval process, including the schedule of remuneration that we'll see. I'd like to just acknowledge that our offices are on Treaty 1, 6, and 7, but today we're here on the unceded traditional Dakota territory. So the business structure of Sioux Valley, something to understand. So it's not just the administration. There's a number of businesses. There's 19 entities in total that are in place right now. Chief and Council are the board of directors. Except for Dakota Tawahi Services, they have an independent board of directors. Okay. The purpose of this complex structure is for legal liability, trying to limit the liability, so you segregate that. So an example is each of the gas stations. They're in their own entities, so that if something happens with one, you've limited that so that the assets of the nation are not at risk. The second reason, and a big one, is to minimize taxes for the entities. So a corporation is not exempt from tax, but there's certain way to structure things that the taxes that would be paid are at the nation level, which is a government which does not pay tax. So the consolidated statements of the nation comprise all of these entities. When I say consolidated, that means all of the information from all of these entities gets brought together under one audit. If these audits that we do on these entities are not ready, that will delay the band audit or could cause the band to have not a clean opinion. So a clean opinion is called an unqualified opinion. If we can't do work on these entities, it would result in a qualification or worse. So in the nation, there's CMHC, there's the Sioux Valley Housing Authority, Inc., which is off-reserve housing. There's the Lodge, the Tawahe Services, Gaming Commission, developments. There's a numbered company that holds land. The Gaming Center, Quick Stop, Sioux Valley Holdings Limited and LP, and then Sioux Valley Gas Mart Limited and LP. The Gas Mart, that's the Petrocan up on the highway, just for clarity. And we'll talk through all these as we go through this. So there's 16 different financial statements that are done. An audit is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. It doesn't give you absolute assurance that it's 100% correct. We work on testing to sample different selections of expenses. Those represent what if we were to pick 50 items over and over and over, those should all be a representative sample of what we're trying to test. So an audit involves that. That's your highest level of assurance. We do an audit at the nation level, CMHC level, the Lodge has one, and then Dakota Tawahe Services has an audit. The second, a lower level of assurance, is a review engagement. So we do less looking at invoices, more analytics, making sure the numbers make sense with the information we're given. So this is a lower level of assurance, and we do that on Housing Authority, Gaming Center, Quick Stop, Holdings Limited, Holdings LP, Gas Mart Limited, Gas Mart LP, and then the schedule of remuneration for chief and council and for unelected senior officials. Okay. The final two, the schedule of remunerations, we only issue a review engagement report, but the level of work we do would be more reminiscent of an audit because that's part of the band audit. We're already testing all those payments that would go to those individuals, so there is a lot of work done on that, and we'll talk more about that as we move on. These engagements in coming future years may have to go to an audit because of the size of the transactions that are going through here. As their revenue grows, they become a bigger part of the nation, which may require them to go to an audit as well. And then your lowest level of assurance is a compilation. So we do 3 compilation engagements because there's not much activity in these 3 items. It saves money for the nation. There's very limited activity, as I mentioned, with the numbered company holds some land, so there's just some property taxes. The Gaming Commission would be issuing licenses for bingos and different lotteries on reserve. Okay. So in an audit, there's 4 types of opinions that we can give. Okay. This involves us analyzing risk. We meet with council to get their risk assessment. We do our own risk assessment on what we're given. We're looking at BCRs, we're looking at minutes. We want to know what council's discussing, what their decisions are. That supports some of the numbers that we're auditing. So the 4 types of opinions, there's an unqualified opinion, so that's a clean opinion. There's a qualified opinion. So that would be, maybe one thing is wrong, and we highlight that in our report to say what's wrong. An adverse opinion is similar to a qualified opinion, but it might mean that some disclosure's missing or something along those lines. A disclaimer of opinion is basically a denial. We're saying we can't give an opinion for whatever reason. The records are really poor. Maybe there was a fire, so there are no records. Maybe things are just so bad we can't even say if they're right or wrong. Okay? So for the audits, these are all unqualified opinions. Okay? So the nation as a whole in the consolidated audit has $85 million of revenue. Okay? And we're going to look at some numbers here that show how this has grown since self-government came into, but also in the last 5 years, how this has grown in each of your different programs. Okay? The expenses were $74 million, so there's a surplus of $10.9. I will caution you, when you think surplus, you think there should be $10 million sitting there. This is an accounting surplus. And this gets to be quite complicated because of capital assets. So that's when you buy a vehicle, you build a building, those are capital assets. So if you got $5 million for a water treatment plant, you built it, I would have $5 million here. I don't put $5 million here. That $5 million comes in over the life of that asset. So that causes this lots of times to have surpluses. And when we look at each program, I'll explain some programs have big surpluses because of this sort of capital asset. Others had surpluses, but with your funding, it's really money that comes in is to be spent on intended purposes, so limited surpluses there. As your businesses earn income and that money comes back to the nation, that's where you could have some surpluses, but generally that goes to support community activities. CMHC, so in CMHC, they are to collect rent. Every CMHC unit has to collect rent. If the tenants don't pay the rent, the band has to find the money to supplement that rent because we have to show a minimum amount as per CMHC. So that's almost $700,000. The expenses, though, were almost $1.2 million. So CMHC is running a deficit. Okay, and that has to do with insurance, repairs, things of that nature that are more than the rent that comes in. Okay, so that $500,000 had to come from other sources within the band. We did a presentation previously on Dakota Tawahi Services. They're a not-for-profit organization. So some years they're going to have small surpluses, other years they're going to have deficits. But they now have their funding agreement, so the money goes directly to them rather than through the band. And then the lodge. So the lodge pretty much had a break-even year with almost $3.6 million of revenue and expenses. Okay. With the lodge, this is where we're testing. We do a separate financial statement, so we're testing, the revenue that they're generating, the expenses. We're looking at their inventory of food and medical care products. So there's a lot of work that goes into that as well. So those are the 4 audits that occur in the reviewed financial statements. So again, higher level. Not as much detailed work goes into these. The off-reserve housing is a not-for-profit, but it's losing money, and it's losing significant money every year. So this is one of the things we've made sure council's aware of. They are aware, and decisions on how to continue to operate that organization. The gaming center is one of the bright spots, so it does make money, and it goes to support a lot of community initiatives. Okay, that's where a lot of the band member assistance comes from. The Quick Stop, so in this year, the Quick Stop lost over $300,000. Okay, some years it makes a profit, some years it's losses, but more often than not, we're going to see the businesses of the community are hurting the finances of the community. Okay, so that's a focus that needs to happen. Holdings is where a couple items get consolidated. They collect some rent in there, but also what ends up happening is Quick Stop goes into holdings. That makes up the majority of it. It's just the way the structure is set up. The Petro, so Dakota Valley Gas Mart, so they have losses. They have significant losses every year. And that's one where the initiative with council direction is to turn that around to make sure that it's making a profit for the community. The schedule of remuneration for chief and council, I will talk about that. We'll put that up later. We have the actual schedule that we'll go through. But in total, it was 1.4 million spent on council activities for remuneration and travel, expenses related to them fulfilling their duties. And then the unelected senior officials of 773,000. So that one, council decides who's on that schedule. That's not available publicly. That there is some confidentiality with that. We don't release that one. But it is done for council and for the funders to see. The three compilations, as I mentioned, not much is happening here. You'll see the numbered company has a lot of expenses. There's a lot of property taxes incurred because that land is land that's held outside of the reserve status, so it's fee simple land. So in the consolidated audit, there's a number of programs that come into play. So all the programs delivered to community members, they're segregated into different areas. So education, within education, there are a number of programs. There are schedules that are done. I believe we had 155, I think, for this nation. Those don't get publicly disclosed because there is confidential information in there. What you see is all the education programs are combined into one, and we'll look at that tonight. We have a separate slide for each of these areas. So we have education, social services, infrastructure, band support, capital, health, band programming, governance, and then economic development. So we'll look at each of those as we go through this presentation, and we'll look at some of the 5-year analysis for each of those. First, we're going to look at the consolidated statements. So they start with the assets of the organization. So assets are things that you own or you have the right to, okay? So cash, so 11.4 million of cash, slightly down from the prior year. One of the items we really look at is when we look at the next slide, we're going to look at liabilities. One of the biggest liabilities is called deferred revenue. So that's money that's been received or is receivable that hasn't been spent on the intended purpose yet. So think if you got $1 million and it's supposed to be spent on a certain program, but it hasn't been spent yet, you have an obligation to deliver that programming in the next year. One of our key areas we look at is, do you have the money to do that? Okay, and that's a big risk. So we will look at cash, restricted cash, and accounts receivable. So cash is money sitting in a bank account, okay? Restricted cash is capital project money or CMHC money that has been set aside in a separate bank account for that intended purpose. Accounts receivable, so that's mostly funding that's owed to you, where the government maybe hadn't paid it at March 31, but they did owe it to you, okay? Within there is also, there is some band member receivables that have grown over the years that aren't being collected on. Inventory held for sale, okay, so that's the 2 stores with their inventory that they would be selling, which would generate cash. Marketable securities, there are some investments held through education that have grown over the years. And then your final one is trust funds held by federal government. So that is Ottawa Trust Fund or Section 66 from the Indian Act. Any money earned on reserve land, so rent, would go there. Not a lot being generated there. So overall with the assets, we've seen a decrease. Most of that's related to the restricted assets where there were significant investment in capital assets during this year. So the money was spent and you don't see the related capital asset for public sector accounting standards, which we're under. It doesn't show up as an asset. It shows up at the bottom of the balance sheet, which we'll look at next, okay? Questions on any of those numbers? So our next area then is our liabilities. So one of the biggest liabilities of the nation is going to be right here on deferred revenue or unearned revenue. Okay, so again, that's money that's been received that hasn't been spent on the intended purpose. So you can see that there was $21 million that still had to be spent for specific purposes. So when we look at that, as I mentioned, I look 21 million. I'm just going to flip back to my last slide. Then I'm looking at how much cash do we have? How much receivables do we have? So I look here and we've got 11, 12, I've got 23 million plus 5 more. So there was enough at March 31, 2025. Okay? As of today, there may not be enough. So that's something that, our audit for this year will cover some of that spending that's happened, because this is now a year old, right? But at March 31, 2025, there was enough cash to cover those obligations. Okay, so then our other liabilities that we have here, we have accounts payable, so that's the day-to-day bills that need to be paid. We do testing on that. We had no concerns there. Funding repayable. So there was $500,000 that had to be repaid. So that meant that money, one of two things happened. It didn't get spent on the purpose it was supposed to be spent on, or it did get spent on ineligible items, and the government would say, you didn't meet the requirements, you have to pay it back. Okay, so that happens. Some of this would be, it just happens on any nation, where they might give you money for certain purposes that you can't spend it. It doesn't work. Others could be bad choices on what the money got spent on, where when the program reporting got done, they said, no, that's not eligible. So something like that might be, maybe a vehicle got bought in a program and it shouldn't have been bought in that program. They might deny that. Long-term debt, so that's debt at the bank. Okay, that also includes CMHC debt. So each unit of CMHC, you get a loan, so you can build those units, then you collect the rent to repay the debt. Okay, for a nation of your size, this number is actually quite low. So from a debt perspective, not a lot has been taken on. And then obligations under capital lease. So this is leases for equipment, vehicles, graders, things of that nature would fall under here. And this is accounting. We have to show that because there is, a 5-year term to those items. So when we look at liabilities, we see it went down from 32.6 to 31.2. So a slight decrease in liabilities. We saw a bigger decrease in assets. Okay, so what does that mean? This is one of the key indicators, is this line of the financial health of an entity. It's called net debt or net assets. Okay? In 2024, we had a $4.1 million net asset position. So that decreased a lot during this year to a net debt position now. So you weren't in as good a position financially as you were the year before. Okay? And that is one of the key indicators that funders will look at, the federal government will look at for some of your funding. Remember, a lot of your funding is under the self-government agreement, but some of it still is under a regular funding that you would get without the self-governing. The non-financial assets, so here's where our capital assets come into play. So these are your roads, the buildings, your homes, schools. Okay, so there's $68 million on the books. It doesn't mean that's what it's all worth, but that's the book value of those assets. And you can see a significant increase from 51 million to 68 million during this fiscal year. Intangible capital assets, things like websites fall under here. Then we've got prepaid assets. So a prepaid asset is when you pay for something but you haven't got the service at that point. So insurance, different things that fall under there. So in total, we have an increase from 52 million to 69 million for our non-financial assets. The final line at the bottom is your accumulated surplus. So you might have heard a term called retained earnings or equity. Okay, those are common terms, but that accumulated surplus is the overall surplus of the nation over the history of the nation. Okay, now many people will say, well, if we've got that big a surplus, we should have that much money. That number, your assets, the roads, the buildings, the houses, that number makes up part of that number. Okay, so it's accounting, it's very confusing, but if there's a breakdown in the statements that shows here's what the programs have operated at a deficit over the history of the nation, okay, and then we have invested in capital assets, it's called, that makes up that surplus. So that's where we end up with those surpluses, is from the capital assets. I haven't lost all of you, hopefully. It's accounting, it's boring, I know. But for me to make sure you as a community members know that number there, and I always stress with council to make sure they're asking management, where's our deferred revenue at? And the good thing, your records, you're up to date. If you were to get too far behind in the accounting internally, there's no way to know what surpluses or deficits you have in programs. So that number can get really out of hand. So that's a continuing thing for each of the managers as well as council, is to monitor the programs to make sure you don't have big deficits or surpluses so that you're spending the money where it's intended. Questions on those two items, the statement of financial position or the balance sheet? So just kind of to see what's happening, I've got a lot of these 5-year graphs. I'm a very visual person myself, so this might help. We can see that net asset or net debt that I was showing you that shows the financial health. So we can see, the financial health got better, and then we're dropping here in the last couple years. So I think that's an important, thing to visualize. And sometimes when you're purchasing assets and investing there, that can make this drop, but it's also looking at each of the program spending and managing that money effectively. Okay, so that's the net asset or net debt position. The accumulated surplus, so we can see an increase in surplus related to the capital asset operations and increasing those capital assets. So what do each of these different lines mean? I know it's hard to see from there, but your total surplus is here, so that was that accumulated surplus. The big chunk of that overall surplus is made up, this is capital assets. So as we get capital assets, that surplus increases. CMHC's on the bottom, it's pretty much break even. And then we can see from the operations, not a little bit of surplus, but really it's the capital assets that are driving those surpluses. Okay, and that goes back to public sector accounting standards and how we have to account for them. Looking at the statement of operations, so this is just the revenue side of things, so this is our income statement. There's many different sources of revenue that happen. I do want to highlight the budget column. So under public sector accounting standards, you have to have a budget. If there's no budget, I will instantly qualify on the audit because that's a requirement. So it's a push for management and council to make sure they're doing good budgets and following those. I'm not going to go through each of these, but we've got some slides that talk to see your ISC revenue has increased drastically, and I'll show you pre-self-government, I'll show you the last 5 years. But with the growth in revenue, that's a lot of stress on the finance team. And that's something we talk to council about, is making sure, is your finance team growing at the same rate as revenue? Because they're processing twice as much, checks and everything with less staff, which then things start to fall. You get a little behind each month in reconciling the books because, you're having to write so many checks. So that's something that level of staffing, is monitoring that to make sure there's the right amount there. Okay, so overall, we've got 77 million in the prior year to 85 million in the current year from many different sources there. That number will include your businesses. We talked about that. So some of those businesses get brought in fully, such as the retail sales line. So it's in the middle, hard to see here, but these are your stores. We've got almost $12 million of sales from those stores that are brought into the financial statements. Okay, so we can see the ISC revenue. So from 2021, we were just under 35 million. Okay, so think that was the start, we were in COVID. And now 2025, it's up over 55 million. So drastic increase in the last 5 years for your revenue. Okay. The expenses, so this is the next part of the statement of operations. So the expenses get presented two ways. They get presented by program. So this is total for each of the programs. Okay. So then in the notes to the statements, it'll give you the total salaries. It'll give total, insurance, total supplies. So they're broken down two ways. So you've got 74.6 million of expenses, as we saw earlier, with a $10.9 million surplus for the year. Okay, a lot of that, again, like I said, is related to surpluses from the capital asset additions. If you're tying these out, this number we saw earlier, but this number here is what we saw on the balance sheet. So that's our 67 million of accumulated surplus. Okay, so we'll look at each program a little bit more, but you can see as revenues are blue line, expenses is that orange line. As revenue went up, the expenses are following, pretty much in the same order. The annual surplus, so this can fluctuate year over year based on capital asset additions, but also based on program spending. So we can see a decrease here in the surpluses. So let's look at each program here as we walk through. So the first one here is education. So this is, I've not presented this to you guys before, so this is the new part. We just thought it's a little bit more information about each of the programs. So remember, education is made up of multiple programs, okay? This is just all of education. So the blue line being revenue again, the orange line expenses. So for 2025, we can see pretty much, a break-even year. In any year, education is usually on a break-even. Some years it might have a little surplus, others it might have a deficit, and you're seeing that here in this. A lot of your education dollars, when it's budgeted, the council has the ability to direct more or less to different areas. So this is a big part of budgeting. As a self-governing nation, you have that right on how the money that you get under that agreement is allocated. Okay, so in certain years, the revenues might be more if we need more, push on education objectives. In other years, it might be less if there's needs in other parts of the community. Social services, so your basic needs, special needs, CFS, JP, so Jordan's Principle. The revenue follows very closely to the expenses in this program, but you can see a huge increase 2023. With prevention and Jordan's Principle activities really starting to ramp up there. Infrastructure, so infrastructure, sometimes this revenue's dependent on what type of funding comes in, what projects you have on the go. So we can see a big increase in 24. It's a big surplus because, again, as you spend that money in their specific funding, I don't get to expense it. I do that over the life of the assets. And that's what we're saying here, but in that 2024 year, there was 5.7 million on water and life cycle infrastructure. So that caused an accounting surplus for the year, which is why you see that big spike there. Band support, so this is administration, HR, membership. Okay, there's actually not a lot of funding directly for administration. They have to pull administration dollars from each of the programs, and that's allowed under the funding agreement. So you'll see in 2025, you can see a huge increase. So as we look between 24 and 25, there's a very large increase here in expenses. And there was a lot of extra external professional fees that were brought in to the band office. Okay, so that's what led to that large increase. The capital projects, so again, this one, it's much like infrastructure, but there is some direction given from funders on how they want it presented. So generally, we are running surpluses on paper. From a cash perspective, you don't have surpluses in infrastructure or capital. Okay, there's not enough money given to maintain the roads, to maintain the water treatment plants. This is all 12.6 million of assets in 2025 and 2.8 million in 24, which led to those increases in surpluses for those years. Health. So health has been running some surpluses. So this is something we talked about with management and council to ensure that, maybe more programs need delivered or less money allocated here, right? So that's a decision that needs to be made while budgeting is happening. But they have been running surpluses. Sometimes in health, and this is common in many nations, getting enough qualified workers to deliver the program is a real struggle. So you might get money for something, but you can't get the professionals that are trained to deliver those services. So that might lead to a surplus or deferred revenue. Governance, so self-government, justice, lawmaking. So we see an increase. As you know, there's been lots of work being done on lawmaking in the community, which has led to those increased spending and allocation of revenue. Band programs, so these are, unfunded areas for the most part. Some of them do have funding, but looking, Winterfest is in here. Then we look at things that are funded, employment and training, daycare, early learning. Okay, so a big increase in the last couple years here due to capital funding that was done. So 6.1 million of capital went through here for expansion of some buildings. Economic development. So this one is one that we bring up as a big risk, that it's, there's a lot of money put into economic development. So it looks like we're breaking even, okay? So this is all of economic development. But if I pull the gaming center out of here, there's significant losses. So all of these entities are in here. The only one that's making money was the gaming center. So that's a concern, and that's work for council to continue to work on. And they have brought in an economic development director to oversee this, to put the focus on turning these around to be profit-orientated businesses. So just for comparison here, we put the gaming center in here so you can see their 5 years of profits. Again, that money gets back into the community for assistance for things like funerals, education, youth and recreation, elder services. The Quick Stop, so we can see here the Quick Stop kind of fluctuates. Last year it had one of its worst years, but usually it's pretty much break even, a little bit of profit or a little bit of deficit. Sioux Valley Holdings, so that includes the diner and the Quick Stop. So it really follows what the Quick Stop's doing. GasMart, so this is the Petrocan. So we can see, huge increases here in their revenue, which is great, but their expenses rose at exactly the same level. So they barely made any money to start, significant losses, and then we've got a couple pretty much break-even years, and then another year of significant losses. So the money has to come from somewhere to keep those businesses that are losing money afloat. So council and management have to work on where's that money come from. But like say, the focus now is to make sure that they're making money. The housing authority, so off reserve. So generally in the last 5 years, we've got 3 years of losses there and 2 years of profits. So some of those are aging homes that take a lot of work as well. So this is something for council to discuss on what the future of this entity holds. This is the numbers from pre-self-government to 2025. So for me, I'm looking here, you were $20 million of revenue, now you're $85 million. Okay, so that's in 10 years with the self-government. So that's a good thing. The line below it, we look at the ISK or CERNAC funding, so $13.5 million to $58.2 million. Okay, so a $44.7 million increase in just your government funding from the federal government. Okay, so that's a big increase. That's good to see, and I think this tells a little bit of a story of the nation and the last 10 years. Schedule of remuneration for chief and council. So just a little background on how we do this. So the remuneration, that's the biweekly regular payment for them to do their job. The expenses column, so that's made up of any payment that goes to a counselor or chief. Okay, so travel, schooling, all of these things, travel to the hotels, anything where they got a check. Okay, and it would cover things where they're in their role as counsel, but also if they get payment for schooling that might be just as a band member, it's also included here. So we work with management, and we pull reports for every single counselor. So that shows up, it's a vendor report. Any check that got paid to them will be on that report. And that's where we start our testing from there. And we'll select samples from every single member that's on here to validate the expenses that were paid to them for their duties as council. Next year, with an election during the fiscal year we're going to audit next, we will see some of the members will have 6 months or whatever the math is there. It'll be prorated for their months that they served on council. So this column here too, there has been discussions about breaking that out into the different components. So, right, whether it be schooling, travel, per diem, vehicle payments, things of that nature, to split those out for more detail for community members. I'll leave that there for a second if there's any questions or comments on that. Okay, we'll continue. I'm almost done. You've stayed awake. I'm so proud of you all. So a couple notes. I've talked about this, but there was some investment in capital assets. So that's important to note in the last multiple years. And then that's what I was talking about in the deferred revenue, where that's one of the biggest risks for the organization, is ensuring that you're delivering those services, that you have the money. So I'll caution everybody, this was at March 31, 2025. We're now a full year later, so we haven't done work to say, where are we today? Is there still enough money, right? And to be honest, in any nation in an election year, it usually causes a little bit more work for the auditor. We have to focus in on, were the rules still followed, the policy still followed, leading up to the election, and that'll be a focus of ours for this year as well, on spending before election time. Okay. This just as part of our as an independent auditor, right? I have a license. I work with 11 different nations. I've also been a director of operations, so we draw on all these experiences from the different nations, and we make recommendations. Okay, things where we say, hey, you guys might want to tighten this up here, or maybe you want to try this. They're recommendations to council. They can take them or leave them, right? But we're trying to make sure that we're doing our job to make sure they can do their job to the most effective possibilities. So we had 23 recommendations. So those relate to all of the entities. So some of those would be, hey, we need to get more of an oversight capacity into some of your economic development. Others would be, your payroll records, you should have more forms on file, right? Not that anything was going wrong, but there's a risk there that if we don't have that supporting, signature, right, that could cause some issues down the road. So we've met with council and management on these issues and had discussions, and I know that lots of those have already been implemented and improvements are being made already. That ties what I have to say. If there's any questions, I'll stay here for a bit. But otherwise, hopefully there was some information there for you to use. Hopefully you feel like you know a bit more. There's a lot of information that goes into this, and like I say, when we're dealing with $85 million, that's a significant organization, right? And everybody should be proud of what's happening, because there's not many organizations that have that much revenue, right? So it's, yes, you're a nation and you're delivering these services for people, but it's not a small undertaking. So. If there's any questions, if not, I appreciate the opportunity to present today. I will stick around as we council does their discussions here as well. Okay. You're going to let me off easy? All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we'll have the updates from the Chief and Council. So I'd like to welcome back up Chief Jennifer Bone. Take my paper back.
Thanks, Meadow. Thank you, Mark. So I'll just provide a brief update on things that we've, as council, been working on over the last 6 or 7 months. So probably over the past 6 months, our nation has faced some challenges, but we have also continued to demonstrate resilience, leadership, and determination. Through every discussion, every project, every negotiation, and every decision, our focus has remained the same, which is protecting the interests of our people today while building a stronger future for generations to come. As leadership, we have worked to strengthen governance, transparency, and accountability within Sioux Valley Dakota Nation. Self-governance is not simply a political status, it is the exercise of our inherent right to make decisions for our own people according to our own values and our own laws. That being said, probably over the last 60 days or so, Council has worked to take strong, committed steps in asserting Sioux Valley Dakota Nation Dakota rights. Some key milestones for Council that we've moved forward on is the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation Rights Assertion Strategy, which was presented to Council and elders. We learned what other Dakota nations are doing and how they're advancing and how other tribal nations have successfully done across Canada. Our Council has committed to the development and implementation of a consultation committee, a consultation protocol unit through our self-government agreement with Canada and our formal relationship with Manitoba. Council has developed and committed to an implementation work plan that focuses on the next 90 days or so. Sioux Valley Dakota Nation has begun providing notice to the industries and government about the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation protocol and rights assertion implementation. So for example, Enbridge, who has a pipeline through our traditional territory, we've provided them notice that and we're pushing for like an economic impact agreement. Other industries like Manitoba Hydro are examples. The next steps are notices to Crown Indigenous Relations and Manitoba Hydro, as I mentioned, municipalities and other industries through formal correspondence and legal notices. Sioux Valley Dakota Nation Consultation Unit will be set up and we'll be submitting a proposal for funding. And we'll also be looking at passing a Sioux Valley Dakota Nation free, prior, and informed consent law. These aggressive steps formally implement Sioux Valley Dakota Nation's Dakota rights sovereignty and the intent and structure of the self-government agreement with Canada. Since being elected, the Council has focused on improving communication with membership, strengthening administrative systems, and ensuring that decision-making processes reflect the voices of our community. We've given the space on the third floor boardroom for the elders to meet regularly. They've been meeting quite regularly since, I guess, January or even December. The Otunka group, I believe the next meeting is on May 25th, and I encourage elders to come and partake in those discussions. The Chief and Council do provide updates at those meetings from time to time, depending on our availability. We know there is always more work to do and remain committed to listening, learning, and improving. Economic development also continues to be a priority for us. Our goal is not only to create revenue, but to create opportunity, sustainability, and independence for our people. Sioux Valley Dakota Nation continues to explore partnerships, investments, and business opportunities that align with our values and long-term vision. And we recognize that economic development must benefit our community directly by creating employment opportunities, supporting local entrepreneurs, investing in infrastructure, and strengthening services for our family. So most of you see the construction up on the 1 and 21 highway. There was previous plans to relocate our gaming center up there. The construction is continuing and moving forward. We are still having discussions with Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries on whether or not we can obtain additional VLTs so that we're not relocating all the VLTs from the community to that site. So we're still in those discussions and hoping that we'll be able to obtain more VLTs so that we'll have 2 sites for the community. I know there was been some discussion with community members regarding smoking. So the new VLT site up at the Petrocan has to be non-smoking, and that's part of the regulations under the province of Manitoba. So that's just a brief update on that and the discussions that are taking place. We also are continuing conversations around innovation, youth, entrepreneurship, and future-focused opportunities that can position Sioux Valley Dakota Nation as a leader among Indigenous nations. Our vision is not limited to today, and we are planning for our future. One of the greatest responsibility we carry is creating hope and opportunity for our youth. So we recently had some discussions about building or providing a youth center for the community, for the youth in our community. I'll give a bit of a background on that. So the former chief and council signed a contract with Modular Building Solutions for the construction of the gaming center up at the Highway 1 and 21. And they canceled the contract the total contract value was $4.4 million, and there was a $1.9 million deposit, non-refundable, made to Modular Building Solutions. So, not wanting the community to lose the $1.9 million, we've been in discussion with Modular, and we've agreed to rescind the cancellation of that contract and to proceed with another building to the value of the same contract that was originally signed by the former leadership, which was $4.4 million. So we haven't made a decision what that building would be, and our initial discussions were around a youth center. I know there's talk about wanting to expand the Wachosini for more training opportunities, so we'll continue to provide updates to the community on that, but first and foremost was we did not want to lose that $1.9 million deposit, so we agreed to work with Modular to come to a solution. So in saying that, our young people are intelligent, creative, and capable of incredible things, and they deserve spaces where they feel seen, heard, supported, and inspired. As a nation, we must continue investing in education, leadership development, cultural programming, sports, wellness, and opportunities that empower our youth to dream bigger than the limitations that were once placed upon our people. And it's really great to see, the upgrades happening at the ball diamond and the ball teams, and, something for our kids to look forward to and our parents to support our youth in sports is a good opportunity for the community. Youth leadership begins with identity, and when our youth know who they are, where they come from, and the strength of their Dakota teachings, they become grounded in purpose. Our role as leaders, parents, and grandparents is to ensure that our children inherit not only opportunity, but pride in who they are as Dakota people. We continue to support cultural initiatives, community gatherings, and opportunities for intergenerational learning. And we know that healing and strength come through reconnection to the land, our language, and our families. As Dakota people, we carry responsibilities to one another. Our teachings remind us to lead with humility, courage, honesty, respect, wisdom, and compassion. We recognize that many families continue to face challenges related to housing, addictions, mental health, and food security, and the rising cost of living. These realities affect communities across the country, and they also impact our nation. And I have to really commend the work that the Health Center and Dakota Tawahi Services do to provide food security to our families in the community. I just want to say thank you to them for all of their hard work. Our leadership remains committed to advocating for better services, stronger supports, and investments that improve quality of life for our people. Wellness is not only physical health, but it includes emotional, spiritual, mental, and community well-being. And I have to commend my council member, Randall, for making arrangements for gym memberships for our community members to access the gym in Brandon at peak performance. And also, we're providing all our employees with a wellness credit that they can use towards a gym membership or golf membership or whatever they choose, just to promote wellness amongst our employees and our staff members, and showing appreciation for all of their hard work that they do. We also acknowledge the strength of those who continue healing from intergenerational trauma and impacts of colonialism. Healing is not always visible, but is happening every day in our homes, our families, and our community. The work for the Healing Lodge continues. We haven't determined a site, but the province did make a commitment of 1.4 million, I believe, or 1.7 million to the construction of a Healing Lodge. So that's still, we're continue to advocate for the operational funding. The 1.7 is for the construction of the building only. So I want to take a moment to recognize the hard work of our administration staff, the program teams, our frontline workers, our elders, our educators, and much of the work that keeps our nation moving forward happens quietly behind the scenes. Your dedication does not go unnoticed, and we appreciate you. I also want to thank our council for their commitment and leadership. While we may not always agree on every issue, we remain united in our responsibility to serve the people of Sioux Valley Dakota Nation. Most importantly, I thank the membership. Your voices matter, your concerns matter, and leadership is strongest when we work together with mutual respect and shared purpose. As we move forward, we must continue believing in the strength of our nation. The future of Sioux Valley Dakota Nation will not be built by fear or division. It will be built through unity, accountability, and love for our people. We must continue building systems that support our families, create opportunities for our youth, and we must continue protecting our sovereignty. We must continue honoring our culture, and we must also continue believing that our nation deserves prosperity, wellness, and success. Thank you.
Thank you, that was powerful. All right, next I would like to welcome up Councillor Hotain. Pull up something?
Hamatakiapi. I want to begin first by thanking Unka for the opening prayer and starting this off in a good way, and to our cooks who were just here. I was going to give them a little applause and thank them for the wonderful meal for us today. I'm going to speak to some of the portfolios that I work with. I obviously can't speak to all of them because we have a limited amount of time this evening, but I wanted to share some of the highlights from some of the work that has been happening in these programs. I share with you the list on the left there are the ones, I deal solely with the Brandon Indian Residential School, and then the ones that fall underneath, I have the initials of those that I share the portfolios with. And we talked amongst ourselves and who was going to speak to what, so I won't be speaking to all of these. And then for all of us, we all share 4 portfolios, and there we have governance, housing, lands, and Dakota Tiwahe services. So I'm going to speak to 7 of them this evening very quickly. One of the first things that I always like to talk about, and I've talked about this in the past, is we have a strategic plan. Again, it's for 5 years. It's from 2025 to 2030. And again, that's our guiding long-term document that we utilize that talks about our long-term vision and our framework for our nation. It has a number of goals, objectives, and activities that are within there. There's 6 pillars that have been identified. And again, these were developed with our program managers and directors. Am I not speaking close? Sorry. Thank you for the cue. That speak to some of the key things that we have within there. And it talks about governance, it talks about education, Dakota way of life, holistic delivery of health and wellness, lands and economics, housing, infrastructure, and emergency management. So it's quite large. And underneath each of these pillars are a number of goals and activities to support the initiatives that we're looking towards. So throughout the last few years, our program managers and directors meet on these to review and see and measure and progress if we're moving on some of these initiatives. And this is something that, again, needs to be brought back in a separate presentation to community. The program managers are meeting on this at the end of the month to see where they're at. I also wanted to reference a finance policy that we had that was updated last year. It has yet to be formally approved. This policy is tied to our financial law that was developed in 2018. And again, these things need to be, laws and policies need to be reviewed every so many years to make sure that we're up to date, that we're meeting standards, regulations, etc. And so this is something that we need to, in our term, we need to finalize. And then right now, we'll be having probably, well, you just heard the audit from Mark. He's already working on our 25-26 audit, so that'll be something we'll be coming back to present October, this fall sometime. So with that, we are developing also the annual report, the written report from each of the programs. So I want to speak to the Brandon Indian Residential School investigation and just some highlights of some of the work that's been happening there. From over the last year, the work that's been done by the team, we now have identified 113 children from 21 communities who had passed away at the Brandon Indian Residential School. And they've also increased, again, through archival research, the number of known children that attended this institution. It went from 586 to over 2,500 students. And these are connected to 107 communities from across those provinces that you see listed here: Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Ontario. They're also doing work, and some of you have attended these sessions, where they're also documenting just for our own story, our own history, how many of our members have attended various residential schools. And right now, the number is at 387 that we know of, that were taken to 8 residential schools across Canada. So some of the key initiatives that have happened, I'm going to break it down here with regards to field work. Right now, there's 19 sites that are under investigation, geophysical investigation. A report was filed in 2025, and then a second one will be forthcoming this month. So before, they used to do surveying only during certain months. Now they can, with the technology and the equipment that they have, they're doing it year-round. And that's based on new equipment. I talked about the archival research, and again, now it's upped to over 2,000 archival entries. 1,100 student profiles have been uploaded into the Community Knowledge Keeper database. The team over the last year has conducted additional research in the Library and Archives Canada and the Canadian Museum of History, where that last one there has agreed to repatriate the cultural and historical archives that are within their institution. There's been a number of community engagements, and some of you have attended these. Most recently, myself and some of the team presented at the National Site Search Forum in March, and that's a national gathering that brings together all the investigations that are projects and people that work with them to talk about best practices, to share and network and support one another. And so we also did that last year on another initiative, and our team also has developed a guide and to help support others that are just starting this process. They also delivered a GPR workshop in 2025, again sharing best practices. So it's important to do that so that others are not struggling. We've built that capacity here in our community with our team, and we're teaching others. A new website was launched. It's linked to our Sioux Valley Dakota Nation page, and you can find that under the programs and looking for the BIRS. Last year, we held a series of consultation and engagement with our members through surveys, through focus groups that were held here, through engagement sessions. Again, over 200 members participated, and this was contributing for Sioux Valley feedback into a provincial law that we've advocated for, along with others, for Manitoba to protect sacred sites and for the repatriation. And again, that's a piece that's missing in the existing legislation. And so they finally acknowledged they're going to create a law, and then various groups, First Nations and others, are participating in what this law should look like and what should be included. So all that information was collected, and we did a report, what we heard back in October last year, and that document is being shared with the province to consider for new legislation. There was a series of events and activities that occurred throughout the year. Again, as some of you are part of this, survivor blanketing ceremony. The previous year we did 18 of our survivors. Last year we did 20, and then we have another event coming up this year for any of those that we may have missed. As many of you all are aware, September 30th is Orange Shirt Day, and again, it's some of the work that's been building there. You see the monuments that are going up. Last year, we dedicated a permanent survivor sacred fire area pit in addition to the teepee that was up. And now coming this year, we'll be unveiling what will be going up is a large monument in that row there that will have the name of all the children that attended. So over 2,000 names will be on this large monument. So the work continues, and it's important again that we don't forget this unfortunately harmful legacy of our people. And another piece that we were involved in last fall was the return of Dakota ancestors back to our community. So at the University of Manitoba, they've, over probably the last 80 plus years, a number of ancestors, not only Dakota but probably others, were taken to the university at the anthropology site, and they were just being stored there in their institution. And finally, over the last few years, through the work of the elders that are in residence there, there's over 200 that are in that building. And through their research that they had to conduct, we knew for sure that 3 of them were Dakota ancestors, and we brought them back, again, through the guidance of elders. And those are the elders that we brought through that repatriation ceremony that we had, and they're on in the Catholic cemetery. So that was the purpose of that. Once we knew that they were out there, it was important for us to do what was right, to bring them back, to no longer keep them in institutions. So the remaining 200 plus that are still at the University of Manitoba, at the end of this month, they've dedicated on their lands a site for a new cemetery. So unfortunately, that falls on the same day of our National Day of Action, so I'm not sure we'll be able to attend that. So on May 27th, this coming up in 2 weeks, across Canada, all the different Indian residential school projects and investigations and people that are working on this are having what's called a National Day of Action. And is to call on Canada to implement and honor the TRC calls to action for long-term sustainable funding and for the protection of burial and sacred sites. So we are planning something at the residential school site, so please watch for some posters on that if you wish to join us on this day. And again, there'll be a larger one at the ledge, but we wanted ours to be more smaller and focused on the children that are buried there. So looking ahead, some of you, again, we recently had a couple of Survivor Voices and Memories project to share information on what this is about. And the long-term goal is to develop a commemorative book to honor the whole person, but not just their time at the residential school. So it's sharing that intent, and we want, it's open for our survivors to be part of that, or families of survivors to be part of this commemoration book. And again, it's documenting our history for future generations. There'll be ongoing fieldwork occurring at the high priority sites behind the school, the original school, this coming up this summer. Ongoing research. There'll be a family forward workshop that will be inviting the families of the children who died that we know. Most of them are from the northern communities in Manitoba, to gather them together to talk about guidance for next steps. And then, as always, it's continued political advocacy that we do with our partners. Tomorrow, well, after this session's over, I got to head to Winnipeg. There's, at the provincial territorial level, each of them have a unit within their provincial ministries of those that work with Indian residential schools. Those people are coming together, and we're making presentation to them on our work. I want to switch over now to the Dakota veterans. Just again, highlight some of the work that was done over the last year. We managed to achieve a small pot of funding to support some discussions and engagements that we've had calling together families. And it was the outcome of this was the development of one part of a 3-volume commemorative book series. That is going to be coming forward in a little while, bringing that back to the families to review and approve, and then releasing it to the community. So we're focusing on the first book of World War I with 16 veterans. Our next installment will be World War II with 19, and then the third one will be Modern Wars and Peacekeeping. We've also started at the development of poster series that will be ongoing. We hope to unveil more at our November 11th presentation. And then we're putting in another funding application for larger commemorative projects. So we'll be bringing together the families again to finalize what some of those commemoration they would like to do. And then there's also a call out for community of families to share any photos or stories or information for the next commemoration books coming out. With regards to education, just speak high level here. Again, they're on a path of, and it's part of our strategic plan is transformation of Dakota education. Some of those key activities that are within the strategic plan speak to increasing qualified staff and training and strengthening and enhancing our education. And then the ultimate goal of building our capacity, our own resources, and preparing for full immersion through incremental initiatives. We have 390 students from K to 12 right now. We have a team of administration, 19 certified teachers, 3 Dakota language teachers, 3 knowledge keepers, a clinician team, 36 educational assistants, a number of other supports within the school for a total of 96 staff right now. We just released a request for proposals for an education evaluation. The review period is going to be from 2020 to 2025. And again, the goal of this evaluation is to look at 3 things: to look at governance, to look at the operations, and to look at student achievement. It's an ambitious evaluation that will be done through the lens of Indigenous, preferably Dakota lens, specific to help us in the work that we do going forward, to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our community and ensuring that we're preparing for full immersion going forward. I'm just sharing that there were some proposals that were developed over the last few months, and the result is, again, we have a new building that's coming for life skills and life skills programming. For Dakota language, we are just finishing now our Phase 4 project, and I've talked about this before. This project are all proposal driven to support programming classes. We held our first annual Dakota language gathering on March 15th, where we hosted 257 people. In addition to that was our Dakota Language Bowl, our second ever. And it was a success. It was wonderful to bring everyone together to talk about the importance of this to our culture and to our heritage. We already submitted proposals for Phase 5 for fiscal year 26-27. We wait funding decision as usual. Those are delayed. They're reviewing them now, and we probably won't know till the fall. I kind of wanted to share that where we access funding from is the Indigenous Languages Program, national. They changed their formula to allow for 5-year funding proposals. However, self-governing nations were not allowed to submit for 5 years. And the reason for this is because discussions have been happening at the what we call the SGIG table, the self-governance table with all the other modern treaty and self-governing groups, to have dedicated language and culture funding. This had some momentum before the federal election. It fell off, and it's now just slowly coming back to the table again. So until that's solidified, we'll only be able to do year-to-year funding. Post-secondary education is another one that I work with, and I'm just sharing here again some stats. The program assists both on and off reserve people. There's 2 different ways you can be funded: full-time studies, you receive the allowance, tuition, fees, etc. Part-time studies receive tuition, textbook fees. There's been a surplus of funding in the post-secondary program the last number of years, and those that are eligible to receive funding have been sponsored. Currently, we are sponsoring 66 students in Mature 12 college and university, and most of these are on track for graduation. Last year, there were 30 graduates from these 3 different programs. Membership, our current population statistics, 2,800 people most recently. I always say we have a huge young demographics. Under the age of 18 is 31% of our population. Under 30 is 51%. Sorry, it was under 18, 31. Between the ages of 30 and 59 is 39% of our population, and over 60 is 12%. One of the things I wanted to highlight here, and I talked about this previously, was the category of 6-2, which is impacting many of our communities across Canada. That was something that was implemented in 1985 after Bill C-31, and that created what was called the second generation cutoff. Right now, there's a bill that I'm watching in Parliament right now. It's been introduced as Bill S2, an act to amend the Indian Act yet again to look at new registration entitlements. It started after the election. It was reintroduced. It went through the Senate first. Senate committee did their review, and they included in there that this bill has to address the second generation cutoff by introducing back the single parent rule, so that we don't have that second generation cutoff anymore. So we're monitoring this. Many of us are monitoring this because, again, it's taking away that discriminatory and those inequities that have continued to plague our people from across Canada. So right now it's being reviewed in the House of Commons. It's moving through the House. It's in another standing committee on Indigenous Northern Affairs. They've had 4 committee meetings to date, and we're hoping that Senate recommendation sticks and that they remove those clauses. So again, it's important to monitor these legislations nationally, provincially, because they impact our people at our level. And so I just wanted to share a snapshot of some of the future priorities that I would like to focus on. I've talked about some of these in the past. We were on our way with part of the engagements that we were having and seeking community feedback on the discussion of our own law on the protection of sacred sites, burial sites, and cultural artifacts. And I think that's important that we have that because, again, our laws can be paramount to the others. And we were also having discussions last year with regards to research protocols and partnerships. Cultural safety protocols. One of the things we have to develop amongst ourselves is a leadership code of conduct. It's something that we've received funding for and we need to deliver on. More capacity and mentoring of our youth. And one of the things that I think that we've been talking about with different people was the education of our self-government agreement and tripartite agreement and what those really mean. And I think that's important because, again, another generation of youth, not everybody understands what that means. And also ongoing implementation of our strategic plan. And ultimately what I'd like to see is increased education on protection of women, girls, and gender diverse people. So thank you very much.
All right, Thank you. Just before I invite the next counselor up, I wanted to let you guys know that there is packaged food over there. Take some if you'd like, and also drinks. I'd like to invite up Counselor Bell next. Oh. Oh. Sober up.
Oh, Medakabi. That was a very awesome presentation, ladies. Thank you, Jen, for your words. Melissa, that was a wicked presentation. Mine, not so much. I don't have the fancy slides. Randall wasn't going to stand up and do the Price is Right thing. So we got, just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'll keep it short and sweet. It's starting to get dark out. The dogs will come out, so. And everybody's still full. I know they won't be able to outrun them, so. So my name is Jonathan Bell. This is the third term being in counselor. I think going over some of the portfolio assignments that I had, I'll speak to some of them. Public Works, Dakota Ojibwe, Community Futures, education. I just found that one out today by two of the teaching staff. They showed me the list. So I'll be, I guess I'll be coming over and bugging you guys more too. Membership, social development, Dakota Employee Services, that's a shared portfolio with all of us. The governance, the structure, of course, that's shared with everybody. Housing, that's shared with everybody, and lands. So Public Works, of course, is just self-explanatory. Water quality, sewer sanitation pickups. The thing that I've been working on for Public Works was some of the entrepreneurship. We've got 2 septic trucks in the fleet that are working diligently for the community. What I'm working on is crunching the numbers for those septic trucks to become a private enterprise for a potential candidate. What the monies are going to be like. There's time and I guess time over. It's always been the band's responsibility to pay the driver, pay the maintenance costs, pay the fleet. I kept looking at it, and you know, that's a great business opportunity for somebody not to only do the reserve and then to travel off. Lots of work out there for it. Griswold is always asking for services. I'll just keep thinking, well, why can't we help out our neighbors? So that'll be one of the things that trying to get structured and trying to get somebody off their ground and then start a business. That's with the community futures part. Other thing that we're looking at is some of the municipal work for the grader, some of the municipal work for some of our equipment. Right now, you can see them busy up and down the roads. They got a lot of housing construction. They got a lot of things going on at the school. New building going up there. They got more mezzo homes coming in, another 20 of them potentially. So they're going to be busy. So we're going to just try to figure these out for fall and winter. Get those go off the ground. Just a second here. Oh, and for the water. I believe we hired back Nathan Whitmer. He's the guy that helped get the water plant kicked off the ground. What he is an infrastructure manager. He's great at it. He's going to help with getting some of the potential infrastructure, lay the pipes to hopefully the Petro-Can. We want to see what those numbers look like. Water, sewer, get those up there for the service our own. Right now we've got an agreement with, I keep forgetting this municipality, the RM, yeah, the local RM. So we're trying, Whitehead? Yeah, so with Whitehead, We're trying to get our own potential water sources up there, our own sewer sources up there. There are future plans again for taking that water across the road. We do have the facility holds enough water to potentially do about 4,000 homes. We're not there yet, so we can share and sell. So that's kind of what's in the works with Public Works. Sorry, I'm trying to motor along here because it's the community futures part. I just started that as a newly appointed board member for the board. Just kind of learning the ropes with that group, what they're all about, how they can achieve funding, what entrepreneurial resources that I can access for the band, for people that want to start their own business. We've got woodcutters here, we've got chainsaws guys, arborists, we got mechanics. Those are kind of the business entities that we're looking at. And of course, the septic trucks, the sewer, and how we can bring those businesses here and get our own people empowered to start their own businesses. This thing here, I was asked to promote Vision Quest. I keep forgetting to put it up in the office, but this will be up there, the poster. It's for June 3rd and 4th. Keynote speaker, one of our own Dakota leaders, is speaking up there, Trishelle Bunn, the chief for Burt Hill, youth advocate. So I'll put that in the office. And another one that I do is emergency services. I was trying to get all the stats for so far for the fire department. Right now, we're carrying a volunteer base of 14 to 15 people. We got 2 women present that we would like to see more. Again, we're going to try to kick off a website, kind of giving you the rundown and the kind of the stats for what the firefighters do, who they are. So far to date, our volunteer firefighters from January have been paged out 43 times. From things to collision calls, which were amounting to 5, grass fires, numerous and still counting. Structure calls, which are grass fires lit intentionally that involve the danger of a structure, those were 9. So if you're burning your grass this year, don't forget high winds, you're putting everybody in jeopardy. So far this year, we've had 19 close calls where 19 homes could have been burned down. And those are going to climb as well. Collision calls, structure fires, carbon monoxide calls, and burning fire pole calls. I think we're up to 19 for those. So again, with the education, right now I've been kind of mainly focused with Rusty and doing the logistics for the bus drivers. Again, I'll get knee deep into that one. My primary focus so far has been social development. Social development, there are some key initiatives that we're trying to establish and change. One is, of course, the policy and procedures to how we do our service delivery. This was drafted in 2018. There was another policy drafted in 2024, 23. So I'm trying to track those down for better service delivery. And get rid of the black and white because that policy handbook is I think it's 9,000 pages. I don't know if it's that big, but it's about that thick. We're running into people not being able to access some of the services. There's some strict guidelines that they have to still abide by the province. We got ISC that kind of give us a lowdown of what to follow and how to access more programs. You can get this from the SA people. I'll leave that with them. So right now, sorry, I'm being quick here. So far, the staff for the social administrator is Lila Tatchin. She wrote a proposal there for the PSP program, not the Pepsi program, it's the PSP. That's pre-employment services planning. Right now, Chantel Taylor is running the program, helping with Chrissy Brandt. great program to get you started, some of the equipment, some of the training, some of the stuff that employers and future workplaces are going to want. The social development partner, she told me to read this word for word, so here we go. I'm going to talk like an auctioneer. The social development department provides monthly income assistance to eligible clients. Our monthly department offers monthly food hampers, special needs appliances, furniture, workshops to obtain certification, first aid, CPR, safe food handling, criminal record check, and child abuse record checks. Notices and reminders to be sent out to clients. Anything that requires their attention are posted to the governance page. For example, expired diets, 2 months prior notice, and given by letter so not to affect their assistance. FYI NES program, the youth program for 15 to 30 years of age, offered through summer work experience and skill development. The training will help youth develop essential employable skills. Career planning, overcome barriers and transition into the workforce, and I think education did that as well. I think they applied for the same thing. The PSP, Pre-Employment Supports Program, which is offered to income assistance clients between 19 and 44 years of age, which focuses on identifying individual employment readiness, which includes the work and life skills training to obtain employment. And they didn't put any pictures, so I'm not going to be showing you pictures. So this is just a breakdown. Again, all this stuff you can get at the SA office. These are some of the things in the structured plans that we're going to be implementing. Trying to implement the work plan is attached to that as well, so you can go and have a look at the work plan as well. Sorry, Kunshi, I see you yawning. We're almost there. So that'll be the primary focus, and I lost my last page. And I just wanted to thank again the staff for their hard work this term coming up. I'd like to thank some of the progress made by the last chief and council, and I want to commemorate everybody on this chief and council that all the hard work that's up and coming, and some of the stuff that they're going to be looking forward to. So, appreciate your time. Thank you, Kushi. And everybody have a good night. We'll be done.
Thanks, Councillor Bell. Next, I'd like to invite up Councillor Hoppe. If you come take the stand.
Hau mi take api. Machpiak se meda. Wope de tanka chicha pe wasa hipe. Yo woke pe de pichi usape. Wapitu kede uitachan uhiete kape. Takuko ukoni chekape. Tagi hon shkamna. Awana de amangna itok up dead naji pe de shkampe heche. Yene ta wasa Yohaba odakape. Wana ke utacha mana wonda kapte. Wana was wohda kape, was oyakape heche. Takape ta wana. De word was this the heap heche naku. Was ipe. Wana wonda kap. Taku brako chinga de misha de wahina jiga. The code we talk, friendship and constitution. Wo chekia. Wo onsheda. Wo okia. Wo nina. Wo hitika. Wo hoda. Wo ksape. Don't contact kape. Hana yoha maunipte o yak o wanke. Hecha mita ke pimija. Wopi hina o wow God. Then naka wiota sampan mija kpe o shkanga de na wopi o kage de. Wahle kekta wahi. Mija taku o na mija awambare kega. Housing. Mija na wasa ompape. Wa oke pe tipi. The health. Mija hana was yohan yankap yohan shkampe. Ohana ku social assistance, social development. Hana isho hana awambare ke mija taku tisa da khepa chin huende wopi yohana aji. Starting from the housing. The 20 units that are at the lodge and completed for the elders within the next for a few weeks. The goal of this project is not only to provide quality housing and to support holistic well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, designed to reduce isolation, improve access and services, ensure our elders remain close in the community supporting program and one another. The situating the development in near existing community infrastructures, we're strengthening continuity and the care and connection. That's coming from the housing supervisor. The 10 transitional unit project will be completed at the end of the month by Move-In Ready, the Mezzo project. Number 3 we are working on is currently renovating 8 units in the community, 4 of which are vacant will be allocated by the committee. There's a housing committee. Housing staff submitted requests for new homes are receiving a substantial amount of money for the CMHC for the 2025 calendar year. And we're working on allocating these funding for the new homes that are coming. We are currently working with the funding avenues in which will be submitting for 22 houses and provide more details when they're available. The housing currently has 7 committee members representing housing for a 2-year term. That's on the housing side. Then we go to move over to the health. That too we share, all of us that were sitting here in the leadership. In the past year, one of the growth and learning, strengthening on how we care for another community, at the heart of everything that we do in the community, holistic wellness and supporting not just physical and mental health and emotional, spiritual well-being. Over the past year, we've been seeing more of our people reaching out, participating, engaging in the health journeys and with their, One of the important areas in the growth of this year for the mental health and addiction support, they provided 720 counseling sessions, supporting 185 individuals with a crisis response when it was needed the most. Over 120 community members reconnecting culture and a part of the healing journey, they tell us that our people are seeking not only support but culturally meaningful ways to heal. At the same time, we recognize there are still challenges in demanding mental health services continue to grow. Recruiting healthcare professionals remaining an ongoing effort. We have learned that by staying grounded in our culture, listening to our people, working together, we continue to move forward in a good way. Looking ahead, we will continue to build on this progress. Our priorities include expanding mental health support, strengthening cultural programming, increasing support for youth and family. We are committed to ensure that our services remain accessible, culturally safe, reflective on who we are as Dakota people. Homi takipi. Hesha hana tisir khemija hana de opomich egare de Yahawash Ganga. Mija de imi piga na de budoga de khabach bagenaje. Homi takipi hana hanakso bude heda he. Hesha hana uchicha ka po chinga hu de owaga. Apega kpekpeash Ganga de na wakare. Wopede tanke chicha po wasa hipi mitake pe ho wopida mitake was.
Thank you, Councillor Hoppe. All right, next I would like to invite up Councillor Wasichna.
Awesome. Okay. Can I close this or? I'll just leave it. Close it. Ho Madakyapi. First, I would like to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. Thanks to the cooks, but they already cleared out. Before I get started on our update of the departments, I would like to speak on a few highlights over the past few months. So far, we were able to get a few things started in the community, such as the Sports and Recreation Committee. We've run into a few roadblocks with our fundraising bingos, but we hope to get our license soon. So hopefully we can bring back our evening bingos to the hall in the near future. We recently were able to get our community members' gym memberships at Peak Performance. We also had our first annual pool tournament here at the Veterans Hall a few months ago. It was a huge success and everyone's excited to come back for the next one. We were also able to start doing a big buck night for our local hunters in the community. Again, that was another great turnout. We had success in our second annual Dakota Language Bowl, and it felt like it was a huge success as well. I just want to say wopida to everyone who had a hand in making the event a huge success, and we hope to continue the event for years to come. Wopida to all our keynote speakers, to Eugene Ross for bringing out his amazing display, to Rusty and KP for setting up the Mogzin games for the kids, and to the elders for their wisdom and support throughout the event. Congratulations to all our winners at the Dakota Language Bowl. Out of the 10 teams in the junior category, the Sioux Valley Education team number 4 took first. And out of the 13 teams in the teen category, Sioux Valley Education team number 6 won. And in the adult intermediate division, with a total of 7 teams, the Sioux Valley Education 2026 team took first as well. And in the advanced division of 6 teams, our winner was SEAL Team 6. We have our champion right here in front of us, eh? Here we go. So just congratulations to all our winners at the Language Bowl. We were also able to get a coaching clinic in the community to help with this year's upcoming 2026 minor baseball program. Our baseball program started last year, and we had a pretty decent turnout with 63 kids signing up. And this year we have a total of 74 kids signed up, which comes out to about 5 teams. So when we have more kids signing up, we need more coaching. So with the coaching clinic, we were able to have a good turnout for new coaches this year. We were able to get new coaches for the 9U, 11U, and 13U. They're new to the baseball program, so I just want to remind the parents to be nice. They're volunteers, and you know, we have returning coaches that are coming back as well to help whenever needed. And yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to our volunteers, the parents, infrastructure crew, and everyone involved with this year's baseball season. Right now, we currently have our 11U playing in Gladstone, and our 15U team is out in St. Lazare right now. So hopefully they're doing well over there. And this year we continue to play in the Midwest League, but in hopes to move into the Brandon League next year. This year we plan to have our ages 4 to 7 practicing at the Ball Diamonds, which is minor scrimmages amongst each other and to work on basics. So watch out for any postings on the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation governance website for updates. Now, I would like to give a quick update on the departments that I've been assigned to work with during my term. The departments I'll be working with are the Dakota Oyate Lodge, Employment and Training, Education, Health, IT and Communications, Justice and Policing, and Post-Secondary. I'll start with the Lodge. The Lodge is currently at 21 residents and employs 55 staff members. Admissions are temporarily paused due to the ongoing Net Zero retrofit project. The West Wing is currently shut down, closing 5 rooms temporarily. This is to allow workers to get in there and get the job done in a timely manner. And admissions will resume once construction is complete, and we are looking to be finished by the end of the summer. The roof in the lodge will be worked on as well and taking place shortly, but that project shouldn't take long. As many as you may know, there are 20 small homes that have been placed by the lodge. They're completing some finishing touches on the home and look to start landscaping soon. Applications will begin soon for the homes. We'll also be looking to hire more help to get these homes up and running, such as nurses, healthcare aides, maintenance, and security. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact myself, Bill, or Tara. Next is Employment and Training. SVDN Employment and Training Office is currently located at the Wachosney Center, and the coordinator is Tanya Wambadiska. Employment and training are essential pathways to empowerment, stability, and long-term success for our community members. In today's evolving job market, gaining the right skills and practical experience is more important than ever. Quality training not only prepare individuals to meet workforce demands, but to build confidence, adaptability, resilience, and by connecting education with real-world opportunities, employment and training initiatives open doors to meaningful careers, strengthen local economies, and support lifelong growth. Currently, we are entertaining bids for quotes for the new addition to the Wachosney Center. This will allow us to have more training sessions for our community members. Space is limited, and this will hopefully alleviate some of the stresses of having to find training space. Next is communications. The Sioux Valley Dakota Nation Communications Department continues to oversee a vast majority of communities' communication needs. Everything from websites, our social media, radio station, to the daily live streams. The communications department consists of 4 employees: Elton Taylor, Bill Taylor, Braden Spees, and Denise DePaula. This team brings you most, if not all, of the content you see online, from posters, logos designs, website design and management, photography, videography, and the online live streams through the YouTube channel. They also manage PA sound setups, projector and screen setups, and often do photo and/or video recaps of any events that they were able to capture and share online. Recently, communications have assisted with our Christmas dinners, yearly SVDN calendar design, printed and distributed, and they have done the CNC swearing in via live stream. They continue to stream with weekly Dakota language classes and recently assisted with the Sioux Valley Language Bowl and conferences. All the videos and live streams can be located on our YouTube channel under the title SVDN Governance. Lastly, communications have updated the studio with noise deadening materials and are currently updating software to something we can use for years to come. They will have a survey out in the coming days to help get a better understanding of what music and potential programming and our community would like to hear from KODA 93.5. Next is justice and policing. Manitoba's Justice's Safety Officer Program provides First Nation communities and designated employers the option to enhance public safety. FNSO recently hired 4 employees to add to the department. There was hopes that they would be starting their level 1 training right away, but due to limited spots, we were unable to get our guys in. We hope to get our guys enrolled in the next training taking place at ACC in November. We hope that this will be the first wave of new recruitments joining the FNSO department. So to any young, physically abled adults looking for work, please submit your resumes and applications in. We will be restructuring the program in hopes to steer them in the right direction. With recent review conducted by ex-police officer Joe Frisley, we hope to implement some of his recommendations, such as establishing a chain of command, administrative reporting, record keeping, and other day-to-day duties required by the safety officers. We will look into having ongoing training for our officers. Next is the post-secondary. The post-secondary is available to our community members both on and off reserve to strengthen and promote educational opportunities for Sioux Valley Dakota Nation. The program helps assist full-time students with student allowance, tuition, textbooks, and fees. One thing I would like everyone to know is we'll be trying to better support our students who are attending any post-secondary program, that we will be looking to finalize our decision in raising the student allowance in the fall of 2026. With the rising cost of living, gas, and housing, the current amount is just not enough. We want to better help our students who we hope will come back and work in the community once their schooling is complete. On behalf of the Sioux Valley Health Center, we are honored to present the annual general report of 2025-2026 fiscal year. Over the past year, our health center has continued to grow both in capacity and impact, guided by strength, resilience, and cultural teachings of Wipazoka Wakpa Oyate. This year has been marked by meaningful progress in improving access to care, strengthening culturally grounding programming, and responding to the evolving health needs of our community. We have seen increased engagement from community members across all age groups, particularly in mental wellness, youth programming, and chronic disease support. Our efforts have been grounded in Dakota values emphasizing holistic wellness that includes physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. We remain grateful to our elders, staff, and partners who continue to guide and support this important work. To strengthen accountability and continuous improvement of Sioux Valley Health Center, tracked the following key performance indicators during the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Access to care. The average wait time for primary care appointment was 5 to 7 days. Same-day urgent care access rate, 82%. Missed appointment rate, 11%. Service utilization. Total client visits, 3,850. Primary care visits, 1,250. Mental health sessions, 720. Program participation, 1,100 plus attendances. Mental health and wellness, clients accessing mental health services, 185 individuals. Crisis response cases managed, 90 plus. Participation in land-based cultural healing, 120 plus individuals. Community engagement, community events hosted, co-hosted, 18 events. Total event participation, 1,500 cumulative attendees. Youth engagement participation, 200 plus youth. These indicators demonstrate the continued progress in improving access, quality, and community engagement while also highlighting areas further development in the coming year. Sioux Valley Health Center extends its sincere gratitude to the community of Wipazoka Wakpa Oyate, whose participation and support make this work possible. We honor the guidance of the elders and knowledge keepers and the dedication of our staff. We also acknowledge our partners and funders for their continued collaboration and support in advancing community health and wellness. In conclusion, I just want to say thank you to everyone for your support. Most of all, your patience with me so far, as this is my first term. I have a lot of learning to do, and at times it has been a lot of information to take in, and it's been overwhelming at times, but with prayer and support of my family and friends, I hope to move forward with honesty, transparency, love, and respect. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to call, text, or email me. Oh, Pidami Ado.
He muted me. All right. Last but not least, I'd like to invite up Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Meadow. Meadow is an awesome young lady, helping us all through different areas. I went to a conference with her, NCIF, and she was one of the key speakers over there as the youth, representing youth. I didn't have anything prepared or written, but I am a new counselor, and I am still vigilant in my portfolios. A lot of the portfolios are overlapping, so some of them talked about the portfolios I already hold. So, in the portfolio of Public Works, as you know, Public Works is Public Works. They have day-to-day jobs, and it's sometimes monotonous. But the guys have come to the understanding that that's the way the job is, and they must do it. Some of our hardest workers come out of that Public Works because they all are firefighters also in our community. So like John said, there's been many fires already. Fire season is upon us, grass fires. The most recent one, we saved another house with the wildfire truck, as the wildfire truck is the fastest on scene. But our firefighters are vigilant, and they were there to do their job. They protected the house, and they saved another house in the community. Their work is vastly unappreciated, I guess, because they're not seen. The only time they're seen is when we need something. We need our septic pumped out, we need water, there's a fire. I was cutting my grass and I lit a fire and now it's out of control. Sometimes those things happen, but our team is very good at their jobs, and they know what they're doing. So I take my hat off to those individuals that keep that work going. I will talk to the Buffalo. The Buffalo portfolio is one of the other ones that I have. A lot of misconceptions in that area, I guess. A lot of questions being asked of me. How many do we have? How many white ones are there? Who owns the Buffalo? Was one of the questions that was asked of me. And I'll answer that right now. All of the Buffalo of Sioux Valley Dakota Nation are owned by Sioux Valley Dakota Nation. No one family owns the Buffalo. We all own them. And that is a misconception that I'd like to put out there just for facts, something that I found out, and one of the questions that's always asked. On what are we going to do with the Buffalo? What is the Buffalo there for? Well, we know that the Buffalo inherently through spirituality is there for our usage. The Buffalo gave their lives to feed us, to clothe us, to shelter us, to give us tools. That is what the buffalo in our culture represents. There is, I guess, people who are for and people who are for not turning the buffalo into a commercial entity or commercial herd. That is good and bad also. The good side of it is that culturally we retain buffalo and we utilize them for supplement our diets or supplement those that are having financial difficulties. We can harvest them, we can put them in the freezer, and people can come and get them as they need or for special social services or tiwahe. Or there's the other side. The other side is utilizing it in the same way, but making it into a commercial herd, meaning cattle, just like cattle. So when you have something that you're constantly feeding and you have to put fuel in the tractor, you have to make bales, you have to maintenance, and you have to do all these things. You have to pay the individuals that look after them, feed them, water them, look after them throughout the year. All of these come with costs. The cost of running that operation is yet to be determined fully, but I know that there is no funding for that program. So most of the funding or most of the stuff that is needed for the buffalo, it comes through public works. So the fuel, they got to water the buffalo every day. The fuel comes from public works and the maintenance comes from there. So public works is always over budget for those reasons. And it's not because there's not enough funding, it's just that there is no funding for that program. So we are feeding these buffalo with our own hay. We have enough hay to sustain them if we bale all our hay fields. So that means we don't have to buy any hay. But if we grow our herd, which is 138 with 21 white buffalo. So 100 at the moment is still growing because the females are still calving. So we don't know when that is going to end, but when it ends, then we do another count and we'll have a different number. So how do you support something that does not have funding? It has to support itself. So in order for it to support itself, we have to turn it into something that's going to create money. It's going to self-sustain itself. That means we must take it into a commercial herd, meaning just like cattle. What does that look like? It's like it's a farm, it's a ranch. That is the direction we could go, but then again, people had the comments of, let's just get rid of them. Just get rid of all of them. They're a burden. We look after them, we spend money, and we don't get nothing back. I don't receive food, I don't receive any meat, I don't receive anything from the buffalo. Why do we need them? There is that. That's because maybe there's not enough every year to be harvested. But this year, now that I have the portfolio, I'm going to look into that. I want to bring it to the Otanka to see if a commercial herd is something that we should pursue, or we cut the herd down to minimal and just continue to fund it through different various programs. There is now NCIF, which is a organization that helps communities that want to get into the buffalo programs, or if they already have them, there is grants and funding available that they can access or help communities access to mitigate some of those costs, fencing, even feed, even equipment. So actively trying to figure out and find ways to take the burden of what the buffalo does to our budget off of the community. But that means it has to be economically viable. To take it into that direction is going to require, I guess, everybody's input, whether they want it or not, and how is it going to look. Setting it up is fairly simple. The workers that we have now, which is Zane Tatchin, is still the buffalo manager, has control of the herd, as in what is ready for slaughter and what is coming for next year's slaughter, and how many females and males that we have in the pen. Actively looking through NCIF for government funding or grants to make new pens so that we can separate the herds when weaning season comes and all other things like that, separating the males from the females. That is something, I guess, a department that a lot of people don't have too much information on, and there was hardly any information given prior. I would like to change that, and I would like to be open to any suggestions, any direction that we may want to take the buffalo herd. 21 white buffalo. According to Orville, Looking Horse, and other spiritual leaders, the white buffalo, what can you do with the white buffalo that we have 21 of? What was told to the ranchers or to Zane and the ones who work with them by Orville Looking Horse was the white buffalo itself cannot be utilized, meaning that it cannot be culled for the meat, so you cannot use the meat of the animal, you cannot use the hide of the animal, you cannot use the skull or anything of that animal, that white buffalo. You feed it until it dies naturally. Once it dies naturally, you bury the whole animal. You don't use anything of that animal. That is what the guidance was given to our ranchers about the white buffalo and how we're capable of using them. So at the moment, we have 21 white buffalo that we must feed till they die naturally. That is the cost of owning 21 white buffalo. So now we either feed them till they die off, which is what we must do as responsible Dakota people to look after that white buffalo. When you look at it from a business point of view, it is a burden. But is it a burden? Are we capable, are we willing to retain them and feed them until their death? And if we are, then we must do something to self-sustain that herd, which is to commercialize. The only way that it can sustain itself. Trevor Gumpf has a business already selling buffalo meat. I contacted him and he is willing to help us in that endeavor if we choose to go that way. I don't want to take up too much more time. Everybody's probably tired and wanting to go home, but I wanted to get that portfolio, some information on that portfolio out to the people as much as I know and I can give. The active employees are still Kodat Tatchin, Zane Tatchin is the manager, Carl Tatchin is the water truck driver who waters the buffalo every day. I will move on to a different area. Approximately 500,000 spent last year, expenses for the Buffalo Fund through FFA. So that is a chunk of money that could be utilized somewhere else, but that also could be mitigated by making a commercial herd out of our buffalo. That could be profit if we manage it properly, or if we grow our herd to sustain a market like Gumpf has, where he's selling online. A lot of these conferences we go to with the buffalo, they're talking about international markets, meaning Europe, Italy. Some of the bigger producers and sellers are looking into those markets and looking to native communities that have buffalo that are willing to sell them for that market. So money can be made through the buffalo if we choose to. But then again, that is up to everyone here on what we want to do with our buffalo and how we want to manage that herd. So I will move on to another topic that is big for Dakota. I've been at the tables of ISC, AMC, the table with Wab Canoe, our premier of our province. So now, there was an apology made to Dakota. The apology was that we were not refugees of Canada. Canada was wrong to say that about us. So after the apology, what is it that we want as Native people? What is it we want after the apology? What does the apology mean? It means that we as Dakota people, without a treaty, the only nation in Canada and the United States, maybe not the United States, but in Canada without a treaty. Dakota do not have treaty, which means, according to the federal government, that we still retain title to our territory, which means that we are the sovereign in Canada, in our territory. The territory that we have is outlined by a map made by Canada, United States, Aerosmith map. Some of us have seen it. It's that huge map into Canada, United States, all the way down south as far as Tennessee, Northwest Territories, Alberta, all the way to Ontario border here. That is Dakota territory. So Dakota territory is owned by Dakotas. That is what sovereignty is, with its own jurisdiction. Canada understands this now. Canada is recognizing that we have Dakota title. That means that we have the ability to sit at tables like Mark Carney, the Prime Minister. We do not necessarily have to utilize ISC as an apartheid form of government. We now know that we have the ability to, I guess, duty to consult with big industry, meaning oil and gas, hydro, CN rail, anything that comes through our territory, anything that is extracted from the ground is within our territory. We have the ability to sit at the table to negotiate what our royalty would be. So now these are big tables that hold a lot of economic wealth. $90 billion worth of economic trade has gone through Manitoba and our territory. $90 billion of wealth that could have been, percentage of it could have been given to those nations that hold title to their territory. Who is entitled to those things? It is Dakota and their sovereignty. The definition they definitely have. They definitely understand who is and who is not Dakota. One of the things that they know you must have is a language. Danikota pido, damakota pido. I have a language. I have a culture also, and that is what ties me to the land. My culture, my language, the identity of Dakota within their territory. In order for us to sit at those tables legally, we must know who we are. We must be who we say we are. Otherwise, they have the ability to not allow us at those tables or to outright not listen to us, for we do not know who we are. It goes back to Justin Trudeau or Pierre Elliott Trudeau's saying, if you do not speak your language, if you do not practice your culture, you have no right to demand Aboriginal rights from us, for you have been assimilated into the ruling power. That means you must be who you say you are, otherwise they will not recognize you. If they do not recognize us, we turn into a municipality and we just be like the rest of Canadian society. Follow the rules, their own jurisdiction. So now we have the ability with the protocol agreement to sit at those tables to negotiate what our needs are. What is our needs in this? What is our right to whatever it is that they are extracting? Well, the right is ours because it is our territory. The right is ours because we are sovereign. The right is ours because we know who we are. I've sat at some of the ISC tables and explained this to them. The big eyes that looked at me with the expressions, with no words, told me a lot. It told me that what I was telling them, they had an understanding of, and they were surprised that I knew and I was telling them that. So they understand that we as Dakota, with no treaty, are capable of sitting at the same table as Carney. Are we there yet? Are we capable of sitting at those tables collectively with a direction, with a plan? We are actively trying through the governance system to do laws, make our own laws. As a sovereignty, we have every right to do that. And as a sovereignty, we need to continue to do that. We need to get these laws done faster than we are, in order for us to move faster in that economic world. When we assert ourselves as such, the government has no choice but to listen and to follow our guidelines, for they have stated through that apology that we have the right to. We have the right to be at those tables, we have the right to say what we want to say, and we have a right to change the course of big industry if it affects the environment in a negative way. We have the ability to stop them. We have the ability to get involved in those industries and ask for our share within our territory. What is that? That is to rise ourselves out of poverty. We as a Dakota nation have a unique stance, and we must capitalize on that. We must capitalize on it by understanding that the systems that we create, the systems that we utilize are the power of our people. Dakota, if we keep everything Dakota-minded, Dakota-orientated, then our jurisdiction is still intact, and they cannot impose on us. We are a nation with a territory, with a language and a culture, and with citizenry, our membership. Our membership is what gives us nationhood. There is an Otunka group. That Otunka group I see as our Senate. The authority of the people comes from the women and from the elders who sit on council. In order for us to truly be sovereign and to be a nation, we must get the Otunka group to work together. For that is where the guidance of our nation comes from. From the old people who brought forth all of our culture, retaining the language, and giving that to us, younger generation, to carry forward. If we do not do that, then we will become a municipality and we will be part of Canada as just another individual with no rights, no Aboriginal rights, no ISC funding, none of that. But we are on track to be able to assert ourselves as a true sovereign within Canada. I don't know if anybody is watching the news with Cowichan and BC, but it's almost the same. A little bit different over here with Dakota and the way we are asserting our sovereignty and our rights. But the talks are happening. And we need Otunka group to come together with unity so that we may take our nation into the future with the guidance of that Otunka group. I used an analogy at that one meeting to the Otunka. I will explain it again. I will tell you again. This is what is happening to us, is how I see it. There's 100 black ants on this side. There's 100 red ants on this side. If you put all of those ants into one jar and you put it down gently, they will coexist. They will mingle together. But if I pick up that jar and I shake it and I put it down, the red ant is going to say the black ant did it. The black ant is going to say the red ant did it. And then they're going to fight to the death till there's no more ants left in that jar. But none of those ants once thought or asked the question of who shook that jar. We are the ants. The one who shook the jar is the government. The government is the one that shook that jar and put us down so we'll fight amongst each other so we won't get anywhere. You fight, let them fight. Then they don't have any more life left to fight me, the one who shook the jar. That Otunka group needs to ask themselves who shook the jar. And really go after those entities that are a detriment to our nation. The government is the one who shook the jar. The ants are the ones that are fighting amongst each other. That is the red and the blue or the black and the white, those things. We are actively fighting each other. Then we don't have time to look at who shook the jar. It is time to look at that. Who shook that jar, and we know who it is. It's the federal government. But we have the ability to sit with them now. We have the ability to call them to the table and ask those questions. Why is the wealth of my nation not being given to me? Why is the wealth of my nation being hoarded over there? We have the ability to ask and sit at those tables and get rid of the apartheid. But we must come together like those ants and be one. The other analogy I used on AMC was the arrow. One arrow is easily broken, but if you put many arrows together, then it's stronger. That is what we need to do as a community. The time of fighting one another needs to end. Who we need to fight is the government and their systems. The systems that were put in place so that we will fight each other, so that we will not move on. But now that we know those things, we should be able to come out of that thinking. We should be able to come together and think as one nation for the betterment of our children. I was told, make sure you watch what you say. Make sure you watch what you do. Those children are watching you. Yes, they are. I was a child once too, and I watched. I watched what the elderly ones did. Remember, I was watching too. I was a child once. I watched, and I watched everybody fight amongst each other. Family against family, back and forth. And they're fighting over these positions right here. These positions they want for the money, the wealth of it. Some are here for genuinely why they wanted to be here is to help the people. There was a lot of them, and there is a lot of them still. We need to come together as a nation if we're going to fight that one that shook that jar. Now we have the information to do it. We are a sovereignty. We have jurisdiction. We have title to the land through the women. Kushis, those the ones who hold authority. Where are the men? Standing idle in the back, waiting for something. We need to get back to being who we truly are before the government takes that from us too. I am actively pushing those government agencies with this kind of information. I am a Dakota. This is my territory. I do own it. I do own the air. And you have to give me what I ask of you. I went as far as saying I'm not asking anymore. You are going to give me what we request. For my people are dying. The numbers, 10,000, less than 10,000 Dakota, Canada. We are almost extinct. That is what I tell those individuals. The genocide of my people is still ongoing by policies, acts, statutes, and regulations that are still upheld by the Canadian government. We must navigate those things, but now we have the ability to sit at some of the tables to make some of those changes as we are truly sovereign in our territory. We must stand as Dakota, stand in unity, get rid of our differences. We must quit fighting each other now. Wa'oshida wa. Takoja pe hechetaha. Wocheke pe odoa hiwakte. Tawachi numpa. That is who I am fighting for. That is who I stand for, as those Takojas. And to give them what they need in life is an identity to be Dakota. And with that identity comes true sovereignty and jurisdiction. And hopefully bring us out of poverty. But we must stand united as Dakota and be truly who we say we are. Otherwise, the government will take that from us too. Thank you for listening to me. I guess this is the reason why they made me go last. But I'd like to thank everyone for showing up and for staying to the end, all of you here, and those of you out there, you should have been here. Thank you.
Closing song. You can just thank everyone for coming. I don't know if they have questions or what.
All right. So I believe we're done now. We're just gonna get the drum to do a closing song. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone for coming.